Pause. Did it tell you? Well, we're recording anyway, so we're in.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it was American. It was sounded a bit American. I'm not sure what it sounded
That's
like.
me. I pre-recorded that. The Premier League's back, and already I've got 100 things to ask you, but not a great start for Liverpool. What happened there? Was it opening day nerves? Were they too casual? What was going on?
I think what you find, and you see it in a lot of first games of the season. We saw it in the Championship. With Reading and other teams. You get kind of weird results, strange results. I think sometimes it's just bedding your way back into the Premier League, and you look at just not just Liverpool. Look at Brighton. Teams like that. So they're always difficult the first days games of the season. It's like trying to get yourself back into the mode of things.
Mm,
Um, but listening to what Klopp said, and he was talking about, which was strange because he mentioned attitude of the players, and
mm,
I think that's not something you connect with. Liverpool. Look what they've done over the last 4 or 5 years. And they've been absolutely one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team. So to question their attitude and application on the first game of the season was very, very strange. And listen, I think you're playing a team that's just got promoted. They're at home, the fans are up for it. And compared to Fulham, they played ever so well. But if you look at the start of that game, you would have thought this Liverpool would go and win it, but didn't pan out that way. And
mm,
it's a difficult one because I think when we look at the Premier League and we look at over the last 2 3 years, it's always been Liverpool, City, Liverpool, Manchester City, and then you think the fact that Liverpool got 2 points already and they're 2 points behind Manchester City, it's not a good start. Even though there's still another 37 games to go, it's just
mm.
it's been so tight between the two of them over the last 2 3 years. 1 point in it that if you lose ground on Manchester City early doors, it's always going to be tough. Yes, we know last year, City were 14 points ahead of Liverpool at a certain stage of the season, and they managed to pull it back. But you can't keep always doing that. So every time Liverpool drop points and City gain points, it's always difficult, and vice versa. And
Mm.
so I think that's probably one of the reasons why Klopp was disappointed. His standards and demands on the team he expects every week, whether he wins or draw. So to question attitude, application, intensity, all those types of stuff that's synonymous with a Liverpool team. Um, I'm sure we see a bounce back this weekend.
We also heard Klopp talk about the dry pitch controversially. What do you make of that? And have you ever been in a situation where, as a manager, in the heat of the moment, something like that's come out and you sort of kind of regret it, or how do you react to that?
Listen, I think as a manager, we know, and I love Jurgen Klopp. I think, listen, you can understand if there's the question of players' intensity and I say an attitude, but I don't think you can ever blame a pitch. Um, for the performance. It was the same
Mm,
for both. Fulham seemed to pass the ball well, and yeah, I think it's an excuse really more than actually a fact. Listen, we just mentioned before we came on air that the weather's been absolutely phenomenal. It's been really, really hot. We played on Saturday against Cardiff. The pitch wasn't how we wanted it to be. It was dry, but you got to play what you get. You know what I mean? And I don't think the goals were conceded because it was a dry pitch. I think that, it was just an excuse really, and it was a poor excuse. And
mhm.
listen, I think it's probably taken away the fact that Liverpool did perform the way that Klopp expected them to play.
Yeah. One man making no excuses already is Darwin Nunez. He was definitely a bright spot on the weekend and in the Community Shield. How exciting do you think he is, and how good could he be for Liverpool?
I think it's early days. I think you think about the first opportunity you had where you tried to flick it in, and then obviously the second one where it actually come off the centre half's boot first before it actually hit his heel. But he's a different centre forward to what Liverpool have had. Um, you go back to Torres. That type of striker where he's very leggy. He's got plenty of pace. He wants to get in behind. So they're going to come back to the Torres, Fernando Torres mode again. If you go back to Suarez and people like that, Sane, Mane, sorry, then those diminutive like strikers that fit into that top three. This is a different type of striker. You have to put balls into the box to him. Um, And listen, I think he'll do well. I think in his time, like anything. And the thing is, when you cost that amount of money, you're getting judged straight away, and
Mm,
I think that's kind of unfair. To be fair, I'm one of those players. I went to Inter Milan, and it took me at least 6 months to settle down.
mm.
You know, culture, the language, you know, style of play. So it will take time. So I've experienced it. So I understand what it's like for people like, Nunes to come over to another country and settle down. So, attributes, you can see it. Give him time. He will definitely score goals. That's for sure.
And not to load the pressure on him, but it feels like Liverpool got Nunez, City have got Haaland. Is it as simple as coming down to which one of those scores more goals this season?
Well, I think listen, we know what a good player Holland is, and there's always going to be a head-to-head, obviously, because it's just what we do. We kind of compare the both of them. I believe that Haaland will score 30 goals this season. I
Hmm.
really would. When you're in a City team that can create chances like they do, and there'll be times where City will go and beat teams 4 or 5, and I can't see Haaland not being on the score sheet. Nunes might be a different proposition. He's learning a different way, and even the players are learning a different way. You know, Before when you had, Firmino, you had Salah, and you had Mane. They played a certain way. Now all of a sudden you've
Mm.
got a forward striker. So they've some Salah and people like Jota and Diaz. They've all got to kind of work around him. So they've all got to play a different type of football. They've got to adapt. So whether they create as many chances as City will, I don't know. But listen, it's just great to have two potentially world class strikers in the Premier League.
Mm. Speaking of world-class forward players, will Sadio Mane be a big loss this season for Liverpool? How much will they miss him, particularly the early weeks of the season?
Listen, I think Sadio's going to be a massive, massive loss. I think what he's contributed to Liverpool, what he's the goal that he's had for Firmino. I mean, they're probably the top 3 players in the world at some stage. So for him to leave was a big, 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 big loss. And I think when you kind of think about, watching him play the other day for Bayern Munich when I think they won 6-1. I think it was. He gets his goal. He just gives him so much energy, and it's a shame that he left. I mean, I can understand players wanting to leave. He had 5 great years of what was at Liverpool. He's won the Champions League. He's won the league. He's won all the things he could possibly win.
Hmm.
Sometimes a player needs a new challenge.
Ooh,
Sorry, I'm back.
that's all right, no drama. I
Oh,
think we got you there.
yeah, yeah. So when you lose someone like that, and you could just hear like the kind of response from Jordan Henderson, and saying what a massive void it's left in the Liverpool side. But he wants pastures new. He wants to try and do something different. He's a world class player, and listen, don't care who you are with Liverpool City. If you're losing players like that, you know it's going to be an issue. So, but Klopp's always been great with his recruitment. The players that he's brought in, look at Diaz. You know what I mean? A fantastic player. Jota from Wolves. He's come in. Obviously, he's injured at the moment, but he's come in last season and looked brilliant. So, it's going to be an interesting season.
Hmm. And one last one, Liverpool. Slight wild card here, but Jordan Henderson always gets stick online, at least, right? But he's won everything with Liverpool. He's been part of the most successful generation of England team since 1966. Is he like the most undervalued Premier League player in history? Like, it seems crazy to me.
History, maybe not, but no, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying because I think, and I said this last year, and I said it the year before. Those type of players are a dying breed. You
Mm,
know, not everyone can be Salah or Firmino or Mane. You got to have the people who actually bring everything together. You got to have the leadership, the character. You know, to pull teams about and get onto players' backs if they're not the standards dropping. And he's managed to do that. Really, really is. I mean, you think about he came from Sunderland for about eight. I think it was about £8 million. So that might be a bit more, 12. It was a snip. And just the way that you know, he's a leader. He took over from Stevie G as a captain, which was a big arc in itself. So for him to go in there and do what he's done and done what he does is unbelievable. He breaks up play. He tries to get forward. Galvanises the players around him. The players respect him. And I think that's all you can ask for as a captain or as a player. You know, he does the dirty bits of the game, you know, that people don't want to do. You know, you look
Mm.
at his running capacity, he's up and down, and he's a leader. And we always talk about in football nowadays, and that word, we've got no more characters no more. There's no leaders anymore, you know. And he's one of them. He's actually one of them. And obviously alongside Van Dijk, you know, you've got to have leaders in your team. And you know, Klopp does not play him for a reason. You know, I mean, there was a time where he wasn't out. He was out for a while, but he's always back in there. He's always 7, 8 out of 10 at every game. And listen, I think you're always going to get stick. Don't matter who you are or what you do, but as long as Klopp keeps putting him in the team and he's getting respected by his teammates, then I think that's enough for Jordan. I don't think anything else really matters to him.
Yeah, cool. Let's move on to another interesting subject, Manchester United. Um,
Every time.
yeah, we've got a few questions for you here about them. The club's transfer policy was supposed to change this summer, right? There's loads of internal rejigging. People left, people got new roles. And then the move for Marko Arnautovic and the sudden change of mind on that because the fans weren't happy suggests that things haven't really changed at all. If they don't get that bit right, how hard a job is it for the new manager?
Listen, I think it's tough. You know, listen. People say, it's a tough job. You know, it's one of the best jobs in the world. You're managing the
Mm,
biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest club in the world. Um, and so, yeah, we know what's happened in the last, 5, 10 years. You know, chopping, changing managers, trying to get the right manager in, and we've had some world class managers in Van Gaal and Mourinho. I think after that, we kind of left ourselves a bit short. You know, I don't think we actually knew what we were doing as far as employing managers. You know, having interim managers is always a tricky ask for me, especially at a big club like Manchester United. And obviously, listen, Ten Hag's come in after Ralph Rangnick, which didn't work at all, I think we must admit. Um, and it's a tough one. You know, you look at we've always mentioned the recruitment. I think the recruitment's so it's the most important thing as a manager. And I think you look at what the business that Pep's done, business that Klopp does. You know, and I've always said to myself, how comes these players are going to these clubs and yet Man United are not involved in getting these players to their club? Maybe it's
mm,
Champions League. You know, I don't know, but the fact is the recruitment hasn't been great for a long time. And that's a major thing for Manchester United, irrespective of whether Man United in the Champions League or not. At the end of the day, it's Manchester United, you know. And
mm,
times when I was, playing for Man United, everybody wanted to play for Manchester United. Everybody wanted to come to Manchester United. Nowadays, it seems that's not the case. Nowadays, like the best players want to go and play in Champions League, want to go to Liverpool or City or go in London because London's a lovely place. Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham. You look at the work that Tottenham have been doing. You know, the recruitment's been fantastic, and yet for some reason, Man United are falling behind. So I think that's something that internally they've really got to look at. They've really got to get that right. And the Arnautovic one is a strange one, but I can kind of see it. I can kind of see it, because we're not saying he's going to come in and win us the title or take us to full, but he's still going to be a valid member of the squad. You know, you look at the bench and you think, well, who's going to score your goals? If
mm,
Ronaldo to leave, you've got Rashford, you've got Martial, and that's it. You haven't really got an out and out person who's going to score your goals. And we forget how good he was when he was at West Ham. You know,
mm.
obviously went to China. Now he obviously went to Bologna last year and scored 14 goals. Um, so it would make sense in the fact to strengthen the squad, not exactly to say that look, this is the one who's going to change things at Manchester United. But the thing is, for me, is that you look at Liverpool and City, they've done all their work early.
Mm.
You know, been done early. The preparation have got their targets, gone and got them, and that's it. And yet, it seems to me that Manchester United are still trying, scrimming and scraping around to try and get players on board. You know, maybe they've spent too much time trying to get Frankie De Jong, um, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. Looking at the midfield on Sunday, they definitely need one or two in there at least. I said that last season. You know that they need at least two. Holding midfield players with power. I believe the Rabiot deal is going to go through. A fantastic player. He'd help, but I think they need another one. And then they need a striker. But the window shuts in 2, 3 weeks. So then once you start getting to that stage of the window, then prices go up for players, and the clubs can demand more money, especially because they know desperate making hard to bring these players in.
Mm.
So listen, I know the fans wasn't happy about Arnautovic, and I don't actually think it's anything to do with the fact how he plays. I think it's sometimes you've seen situations where he's a bit petulant, especially at West Ham, when it's taken off, and I think United have got enough problems in house with this type of stuff, with petulance and the spirit of the team
Mm.
that are causing problems. And I'm one of those. Sometimes I don't care, what players you've got, how good they are. If the spirit and togetherness is not right, you'll always fail. Togetherness and spirit. And if it's fragmentation like we saw last year at Manchester United, where there was pockets of different groups with different opinions, you can understand why they weren't successful. So I think for manager Ten Hag has come in and said, right, we need to make sure we're all together as one. I'm not sure whether they're there at this moment of time. Obviously, saw there was stuff in the paper today about players not happy with Ronaldo's situation. So obviously, there's still people in there leaking stuff out from the club, which needs to be
Mm.
put to ASAP. So all these things and recruitment and losing games or losing the first game of the season, they build pressure on you straight away. And I think for Ten Hag, it makes it a difficult job. Also, we've got to make United fans have to be patient. We can't listen. I think the booing wasn't really directed at Ten Hag. I know the performance wasn't great. It was more about the owners, which I get. I said, but I felt for Ten Hag because I just feel as a manager, your first game, listen, you want to impress. You're at home. All the signs from pre-season is that we're winning games, they're playing well. We beat Liverpool 4-0. So there's a sense of excitement. Looking to the first game of the season. So to go and lose that and lose it the way they did, you can sense the fans being disappointed. But I think as the first game as a manager, the last thing you want is a crescendos of boos after the game. It makes it even tougher. And we've got to be patient. I've said that before. Fans have to be patient because we can't go back down the same road of a year's time, 2 years' time, changing manager again. He wants his players in, he wants other players out. It's costing the club a fortune. That's not the way forward. You look at Klopp, you look at Pep, 4, 5, 6 years have been there, the success they've had. You look at Sir Alex when he was there, success. You do that by longevity. Keep changing managers, and it is not the way forward. So we have to the fans have to give, Ten Hag a chance. Let him at least have a couple of years, get his team together. Klopp never had his team together in the first year.
Mm.
Klopp, for years before, he had the perfect balance of his team. Ten Hag will need at least two years to have the perfect balance of a team that's going to challenge the likes of City and Liverpool.
What would you do if you were the manager with the Ronaldo situation? It's become a sideshow now. What would your call be there?
Listen, I think it's a difficult one because obviously you think about the goals that he scored last year.
Mm.
He had 18 goals he got last year. If he doesn't score their goals, I think they're in the bottom half of the table. So it shows the importance that Ronaldo has on this team. But I'm always of the opinion, if a player wants to leave, and he kind of hinted that he wanted to leave 3 or 4 weeks ago. If I'm a manager there and then, I'm thinking, right, I need to go and get a striker. I need to get him
Mm.
quickly. Because ultimately, if a player's unhappy at the club, they eventually they find a way of getting out. We saw obviously when he came on yesterday, there was a kind of, some fans were applauding him, some fans were unhappy with him. Again, it's another disruption in the building process of Manchester United. And I think if it was Sir Alex, sometimes it's like when we had Cantona, for example. Cantona was Cantona, but Cantona did it on the pitch, so you could deal with what happened off the pitch. But off the pitch, he was fantastic. He was a gentleman. He mixed with the lads. We loved him. I think this is a complete different situation. I think Ronaldo is a serial winner, one of the best players ever to grace the football pitch. But you have to be a leader. You have to set an example. And there's been times where he's not played or he's walked off the pitch, not applauded the fans. That doesn't breed well. Whether he wants to stay or not or leave, he still has the ultimate respect for everybody else. And I think this is an issue that needs to be resolved quickly. It's never easy for a manager to keep a player here once the window's shut. Once the window is shut, then it's a case of if he's still here, he's got to get on with it, get himself fit, start playing for the fans and his teammates.
hmm Um, Eric Ten Hag must have a few frustrations. He asked for an Arnautovic, the club changed their mind. The Ronaldo situation, Frankie de Jong was his number one target all summer. The club have made no secret of how desperate they were to get him. He's hardly been interested, and today it sounds like he could be off to Chelsea instead. How bitter a blow would that be, and how far does that mean United have fallen if that's how they're going?
Well, it is. Listen, I think this Frankie de Jong saga's been again a bit of a circus. You
Mm,
know, if Man United want a player, they go bang, 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 and he's there within 2 days doing his medical. The fact that obviously initially he wanted to stay at Barcelona, which I can understand. Obviously, Barcelona still owed him a sackful of money, but you always kind of sense that he'd end up at Old Trafford. And the little rumours of Chelsea getting involved, you always thought, well, he'd go to Manchester before he'd go to Chelsea. Obviously, that doesn't seem to be the case. Barcelona needs to obviously get him off the wage bill. And I think to lose a player like that to one of your, I wasn't use the word rivals, but to another big club, so to speak, it'd be disappointing. You think you get Rabiot done. If you get Frank de Jong in now, all of a sudden, Man United look quite decent in the middle of the park. Now they haven't got that, so now they've got to look elsewhere in the next two weeks. And all it does, it makes Chelsea stronger. And
mm,
Chelsea doing a lot of business. And I think sometimes the lure of London, capital city, is a big pull for some of these European players. When you go from a Barcelona, to London, there's not much in it. You know what I mean? But I think that's a big pull for some of these, for some of these international world class players. And to be fair, I mean, just me as a manager, trying to get players in. Sometimes it's the lure of being down in, near Chelsea, in Chobham or Cobham, wherever it is, and people want to have that lifestyle where it's really nice. So that can help. But back in the day, Frank Dion would have gone to Manchester United without a doubt. Fergie
mm,
was there, Manchester United. So it shows you that the club, as big as it is globally, financially, these players are saying, no, I want to go to London. I want Champions League football. And I can see Chelsea are a bit further ahead than Manchester United.
I've got two quick final questions for you. One
Mm.
is about McFred, Scott McTominay and Fred. They get bucket loads of abuse on Twitter. They've been criticised for what, 3 years? The fans have been saying that we need an upgrade. Are they good enough? And what advice would you give them if you were in that dressing room?
So I think McTominay. There's been games where McTominay's been absolutely fantastic. Where he's, even not last season, the season before, where he actually carried the team for 5 or 6 games. I look at him as a player, and I think he needs someone alongside him. A world class midfield player. Sometimes, if I look at Pogba when he played for Manchester United to Pogba when he plays for France, when he's
Mm,
got alongside him and Rabiot and world class, but he's a completely different player. And I think with McTominay, I think they need some world class players alongside him to bring the best out of him. I was fortunate enough to play, when I went to Man United as a kid, um, I played alongside Brian Robson. So he actually made me a better player. And I think McTominay needs someone like that, maybe one or two in there to just give him a bit of support. No, he's not a young kid now; he's 24, 25. But you've seen performances sometimes where you think, yeah, this kid can play. Um, Fred is a different different kettle of fish. Um, Fred for me is Fred. He give it his all. He try his best, and then sometimes you think, is he the player that's going to take Man United to where he wants to get to? But it's not just about individuals. It has to be a team. And I think they do get a lot of stick, and if things go wrong, it's either them two or Maguire who gets it. But it
mm,
has to be a team thing, and I think this is no fault of Fred and McTominay. This is a fault of Manchester United. The fact that they've not got recruitment in, they've not got midfield players in, that we've been saying for the last 2, 3 years to help these people. They're good team squad players. They can have an impact. If you're playing, other teams, then they can have an impact. They can come and have an impact. But I think to just keep slaughtering them every week is not the way forward. And listen, I'm sure Fred and McTominay don't listen to all that rubbish. I'm sure if they're playing, they're playing. They've got to show what a good players they are. The problem with Manchester United, and you go back to the likes of Scholesy and Keane and Giggs and people like that, they play well every season. People use this word "great" too easily. He's a
mm,
great, but he's had a great season. Doesn't make him a great player. You know, Scholesy, Keane, Giggsy, they were great 10 years in a row. They're great players, you know. So we need to get back to the stage where we've got players who are playing 8, 9 out of 10 every season, not every 4 weeks, every season. Until we get to that stage, it's going to be a struggle. You look at, as you say,
Hmm.
we talk about Marnie, talk about Kevin De Bruyne, you know, talk about Aguero, all these players, you know, they're great every season, not just one season, not just 2 months. And that's the difference with Man United. You never know, sometimes never know what you're going to get from them. And it's been like that for the last 10 years, I'm afraid.
I think that leads nicely into my last question, but will they qualify for the Champions League this season? Where will they finish?
Ooh, I think, I mean, personally, you know, I'd love to say yes, you know, but I think looking at realistically, I don't think they're ready. I mean, we all thought again, we get excited again, new dawn, you know, new manager, things are going to change, things will be different, and they will be. But he needs time to implement what he wants in this football club, you know. And so it's going to take, as I said before, it's going to take another 2 years. You know, Chelsea are building, Tottenham are building. Are they going to finish above City and Liverpool? To be honest, I can't see it. You know, so you know they'll be vying for place with Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I'd like to say yes, but realistically, I can't see it.
Thank you for your time, Paul. Good to chat to you as always.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.